You are about to enter the fantasy football show. Please stand by like a boss. Estás entrado al fantasía fútbol novelas. Espera con el patrón. Smitty is live Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Get on-demand one-on-one text advice with Smitty at thefantasyfootballshow.com.
You are about to enter the fantasy football show. Please stand by like a boss. Estás entrado al fantasía fútbol novelas. Espera con el patrón.
Get on-demand one-on-one text advice with Smitty at thefantasyfootballshow.com.
You are about to enter the fantasy football show. Please stand by like a boss. Estás entrado al fantasía fútbol novelas. Espera con el patrón. Smitty is live Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. You are about to enter the fantasy football show. Please stand by like a boss. Estás entrado al fantasía fútbol novelas. Espera con el patrón. You are about to enter the fantasy football show. Please stand by like a boss. Estás entrado al fantasy.
Live from the fantasyfootballshow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
What is going on, good people? You have some news right in front of your face. It isn't necessarily news that I think has much legs, but you know how we roll here on the Fantasy Football Show. Even if something's being talked about on a grand scale, we'll come on to either shoot it down, to confirm it, to try and make sense of it. I love when people come at me and say, Smitty, are you really going to post a video on this BS? Or but they don't even watch the video and they're like, hey, Smitty, how could you talk bad about Lamar? And I'm like, have you even watched the video? I'm not saying I'm going to talk good about Lamar or talk bad about Lamar or talk much of any side one way or the other. We do need to hit the intro to the news desk because we do have news. Let's go.
From the fantasyfootballshow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
So we have this tweet, this tweet by Bleacher Report that kind of triggered a bunch of talk on the internet about Lamar Jackson changing his header image where he says, I need money at the top. Now, Lamar has come out and said, this is not related to the contract. You guys run with everything. And this is true to a big extent with the Deebo Samuel stuff. Everything Deebo did the media would take it, twist it up, and just act like it meant something. Everybody's trying to make a splash, trying to get clicks, trying to get eyeballs. Even your boy Smitty's doing it because this needs to be talked about. I'm going to talk about it. But we do it for a reason. We do it because we love talking football. We love talking football. Are there problems in Baltimore? I think there are, but I don't think it necessarily won't get resolved. If anybody thinks that Lamar isn't upset that he lost his number one wide receiver, if anybody thinks that Lamar is waiting to sign his contract because, he just doesn't feel like it right now, you're crazy. He has said before, there are numerous reports that talk about how this guy may want to be franchise tagged for multiple years. Now, this could be posturing, obviously, but he may want to be franchise tagged for multiple years because he doesn't necessarily want to sign a long-term deal. Some of that might be just money related. He's been asked, do you think you'll stay in Baltimore? His answer has been, yeah, I think I'll finish my career here. Yeah, everybody's going to say that wherever they're playing, right? Doesn't mean that he really, really believes that. I believe that he is questioning a little bit his situation long-term there because, you trade away a guy's top wide receiver, he's going to be a little pissed off. I don't think he's happy with the situation entirely. I think he loves Baltimore. I think he loves that the system is built around him. I'm not saying he doesn't end up staying and inking a big contract this offseason. I do believe that part of him not signing a deal has to do with him not having an agent. I don't know why this man decides not to bring in someone professional to handle this because he wants to save this or that on that percentage, or maybe he wants to handle it himself for other reasons. But I believe the team would probably even pick up the tab on whatever the agent's getting paid just to get a deal done. And I think Michael Florio even brought that up as a suggestion that he wanted to potentially suggest to the Ravens that they pick up the tab so that an agent would get paid and you could get someone professional in here to handle the negotiation. Lamar Jackson shouldn't be handling this by himself. This is a monster contract. This is a deal that you should have somebody that knows how to do this professionally get involved. It's part of the reason why a deal hasn't gotten done. He hasn't had somebody professionally telling him, look, I realize you might want this as your end goal. I realize you might want this as your end goal. Let's ink a deal. Like, I would have inked a deal off the back of the Deshaun Watson deal. That is when you ink a deal, when somebody sets a precedent and sets a tone of getting $230 million guaranteed. That's when you ink a deal. That's when you ink a deal. It's crazy. It's crazy. Why on earth not go after, even if you don't sign it, why not go after a $230 million contract like Deshaun Watson? He could have probably got as close to the sun as he wanted to in that very moment, but he doesn't. He waits. And I know some people are going to say he's smart. He's smart by not getting an agent because look what he's doing. He's going to get a franchise tagged. Then he'll get franchise tagged. Then maybe he signs a $300 million deal, Smitty. Maybe he won't get a $250. Maybe he gets a $300 million guaranteed deal because he waits 2 years. Maybe dogs fly. Like, honestly, this is a running quarterback. If I was his agent, I'd be like, bro, you run 150 to 180 times a game. A season. A game. Almost. 180 times a season. He was on pace for, I think, 185 to 190 rushing attempts last year. And he got hurt, okay? He got hurt. He is very likely to get injured. To not sign a long-term deal that sniffs above probably $200 million guaranteed if you wanted to off the back of the Deshaun Watson deal is absolutely crazy. Absolute madness. And he needs an agent. And he needs an agent right now. He needs an agent right now. Otherwise, he's going to leave money on the table because if he gets hurt, he suffers some sort of Dak Prescott ankle injury that he isn't lucky enough to come back from, or he suffers an injury that hobbles him for the next couple years. His running ability is the main reason he is good. He is not a great passing quarterback. He is a very He's becoming very good at throwing the football, but he's not great. He's nowhere near the level of the top tier pure passing quarterbacks. But this man is like a running back, an additional running back. You hear people say that a lot. Sometimes I think that's a ridiculous argument, because he's not really like having an extra running back because his passing yards aren't. Josh Allen's like having an extra running back because he's throwing at an elite level and running at an elite level. Lamar's running at an ultra elite level and passing at a good level, a mediocre level. If you took away his running, he wouldn't be near the same player. Devin dropping a wad on screen. Devin says, Smitty, sign me up for that league. Devin, send me a DM on Instagram right now, young man. Send me a DM right now. But anyways, let's circle back to the question at hand and then work our way back around. So this tweet by Bleacher Report that triggered off of the header image being traded where he says, I need money. Now, Lamar says that has nothing to do with the contract negotiation, but come on. You know this is like, you are a grown man that is in the spotlight. Being in front of the media in the spotlight is part of your job. You know, putting up an image at the top of your Twitter header that has 1 million followers and all the top news sources in the world are monitoring everything you say and do in the middle of this contract negotiation, and you put up a graphic that says, I need money. I'm just saying, every single sane individual on this planet would realize that will trigger some people to react. And he's surprised that the NFL world and social media is blowing up, asking questions about it. Like, what did he think was going to happen? Swaggy says, Smitty, you worry about injuries way too much for these NFL players. They don't even worry as much as you do. It's what I get paid to do, Swaggy. I get paid to look out for you. Do you want me not to keep all this in order for you and keep track of it and figure out the best pattern recognition data that can help drive you towards success, Swaggy? Do you not want me to help you avoid drafting a player that I think could get hurt? I'm not saying don't draft Lamar, but you're talking about injury. Do you want me to not tell you about Derrick Henry's probable demise? Do you want me to not tell you about Cam Akers? Derrick Henry and Cam Akers, Swaggy, were my number 1 and number 2 avoid players for 2022. What happened, Swaggy? Let's wait for Swaggy to answer. Derrick Henry, Cam Akers, and Barkley, my top 3 avoids for 2022, Swaggy. Let's go ahead and wait for Swaggy to answer. Swaggy? We're waiting. Those are my top 3, boy. My top 3. We're waiting for Swags. Lamar always been a little injury prone, to be honest, says Anonymous. And running 155 to 185 times every single year is going to break him down quicker than the average running back. It's just going to happen. And I hate when people say you can't predict injury. I'm not saying you can predict injury exactly. I'm not saying that I knew Cam Akers was going to tear his Achilles tendon exactly. I'm not telling you that I know that Derrick Henry won't last or will last 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games in 2022 before he falls off. I don't know exactly when it's all going to happen. I don't have the Gray's Book Sports Almanac sitting in front of me, or I probably would be in Vegas 365 days a year. Henry was a freak accident, Smitty. There we go. So let me get this straight. You worry about injury too much, Smitty. And then when I say avoid a player, he's going to get hurt, and he gets hurt. Now what? Now it doesn't count? It counts only when I'm wrong? Swaggy, I'm trying to understand this. Henry was a freak injury, yet he was my biggest avoid for 2021, and it was a freak injury, so that gets a pass. I don't understand, Swaggy. I don't understand. How do I not worry about injury enough or appropriately when the 3 biggest players I said to avoid in 2021 all got hurt, bro? All got hurt. And now this one gets a pass. Henry gets a pass. It was a freak injury? How is it a freak injury? How was it a freak injury? The man had over 400 carries the year prior. The man had a 2,000-yard season, both of which independently call for his demise because that's what history tells us. He has to be the one outlier. Henry has to be the one outlier to not get hurt in 2021. 400 carries, the death of a running back, the death of his career. 400 carries, okay, he's going to be this outlier. That could be the case, Swaggy. That could be the case, but history told you that would not be the case. History told you Derrick Henry was going to get hurt. History told you that he couldn't have had more than half of the production he had the year prior because he was either going to break down and fall off the face of the earth physically or break down and get hurt and get half the carries. He got half of the workload, almost to a T. History was 100% accurate. 100%. And to say it was a freak injury, Swaggy, he came off a 400 carry season. Swaggy, listen to yourself. Henry's injury was a freak accident. How? He had 400 carries, Swaggy. He's going to walk into 2022 where this team's going to feed him 27 to 30 carries a game. And let me guess, he's going to have another freak injury, Swaggy. Another freak injury at some point in 2022. Is what I'm guessing is going to happen, according to this comment. Swaggy, I appreciate you, but you came in hot saying I'm worried about injury too much, and then you came in even hotter and said Henry was a freak injury, and that me predicting Henry, Akers, and Barkley being complete avoids was what? Luck, and luck? Back to Lamar. Lamar Jackson, not too worried about the header image in his tweeter. I'm not thinking this has much to do with anything. I'm not thinking that he's in horrible contract negotiation positioning with the team. As far as I understand it, and everybody that is chirping in my ear, because as you can imagine, your boy Smitty's pretty dialed in to 100 different places. I've got text messages that are Niner geared. You know, a lot of my Niner guys. I've got text messages and DM strings that are people that are very tied into Baltimore, tied into Buffalo, tied into whatever. I've got you should see my phone when I wake up in the morning. It's absolutely blitzed with DMs and notifications. I have to turn off my notifications in a weird way that works for me, and that's why I don't see DMs anymore really on Instagram. I just don't see it. I got too many people that are coming, you know, for questions and all that, and I just can't do it. I got too much other stuff coming in. But everything I'm hearing coming out of my Baltimore people, my people dialed into this situation, is that the Ravens want to get a deal done. The Ravens want this to be inked. The Ravens are trying their very best. This is not like the Debo, Samuel, and 49er situation where Debo wants his deal. The Niners, they say they want it, but they haven't even entered in the door. They haven't even walked in the door. So, Swaggy, you can't defend Derrick Henry better than that. I don't know what you guys are suggesting there, but Jeff says wear and tear on the human body from massive blunt force trauma after year after year is undeniably an influence on increased injury risk. I know, Jeff, you can't convince people about injury. People don't. There's certain people that say you can't predict injury. You can't predict injury, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. People just think that you are just throwing mud at a wall to see if it will stick. You're playing an odds game. There's odds percentages at every turn in fantasy football. I do my very best to allow everybody the best chance of victory. And sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. Ron Navy says, No, stop talking about Henry getting injured, Smitty. Henry got his foot stepped on, which anybody's ankle can twist and break in their... Yeah, but bro, it's all about the mileage, bro. It's all about the mileage. Do you know how many times your ankle twists? Like, this is... Let me explain it, Ron, the way that I understand it and the way that I think makes the most sense. Do you know how many times Derrick Henry's foot probably did what it just did throughout the year? Probably 100, 200 times? Do you know how many times that you step the way he stepped and nothing happens? The problem is the wear and tear. I think what people don't understand is that, like, they think that he's built different, he's going to survive differently. You can ignore all the data because he's this different, massive human being. But when you're as big as Derrick Henry and you hit the ground over and over and over, the wear and tear is harder on you than it is the average person. So guys like Henry fall off the face of the earth really quickly. But the thing you got to understand is that Derrick Henry stepping weird and having a freak injury wouldn't happen. He would be able to take that step, not break his foot, more than likely, if he didn't have the wear and tear on the body. It's all about wear and tear. I could go out, I've got wear and tear on my knees that make it so the likelihood of me tearing something, going and playing a very competitive game of basketball at LA Fitness, the odds of me leaving the court today, if I go down and play 2 straight games to 15, by 1s and 2s, 2 straight games to 15, the odds of me leaving with a season-ending injury are probably 30%. Like, my knees are shot for the lateral. Like, I can go forward. I can run a 6-minute mile, sub 6-minute mile. I can go north and south all day long. The right to left, my knees can't take it anymore. They've had too much abuse over the years. They just can't do it. There's a certain point where these easy things that you do cause injury. So Derrick Henry's freak injury wouldn't have been an issue had he not had the mileage. I almost guarantee you he could have accepted this or that or rolled his foot and it not have broken. It's the wear and tear. It's 900 and about 20 carries or so in a 2.5 window of time. Do you guys understand how big of a workload that is? 920 carries roughly in a 2.5 window of time. We're concerned about Zeke Elliott being complete toast on a long, lengthy career of right around 1,600 to 1,700 carries, if I remember correctly. That's over a long career that Zeke Elliott has acquired and consumed over about 1,600 to 1,700 total carries, which is such a high number. There's no one in the NFL relevant that has that kind of carry workload history. They're just not relevant anymore. You can't have 17. Zeke is a specimen for even getting this far. And Zeke could have a little bit left. I don't know that he has a 17-game stretch of being elite, but let's say he was elite for 4 or 5 games and then gets hurt. The likelihood of Zeke getting hurt going full go is astronomically high. Could Zeke perform at an elite level for 5, 6, 7 games and be lights out? He could. But if he did that, the odds of Zeke Elliott tearing something, breaking a bone, accidentally stepping weird and having his foot break and calling it an accidental injury or a very unlikely injury, the odds of that happening are astronomically high for Zeke Elliott. Just extremely high. Probably some of the highest injury odds in fantasy football is if Zeke is fed full course meals, he will get hurt. MCL, some kind of injury, meniscus, whatever, it's going to happen to this man. His knees have been through the ringer for years. Derrick Henry getting 27 to 30 carries a game, whether it's considered a freak injury when it happens because he rolls his foot weird, whatever, the workload will make Henry break at some point during the season. There's no way Derrick Henry can run 27 to 29 to 30 carries a game, which is what Tennessee will stupidly ask him to do because they have no A.J. Brown. They have no offense that's consistent or ready to go out of the box in 2022. They're going to lean on Henry. He's going to face more 8-man fronts, more box counts than ever before with A.J. Brown gone. Derrick Henry's going to have a tougher time getting yards per carry than he ever has. He's going to face more 8-man fronts, and he's going to get easily the same, if not more, workload walking into 2022. To say that Derrick Henry could survive 20 2022 at a 27 to 29 carry a game pace is crazy odds. Crazy odds. Back on point on Lamar, because we got sidetracked on Derrick Henry, and I just want to get back on track here. Look at Edgerrin James' career. He was injured several times, and yeah, but you can't really use older running backs that were from a different time. Like that's when 30 was the 30. Now in today's NFL, 26, 27 is the new 30. The decline for a running back. It used to be at 30 years old. You can't really even Zeke Elliott is from the old school. You can't almost even use him. The running back in today's NFL, the abuse you get coming into the pros, the harder hits from high school, from college on up, the abuse that the running back takes between the tackles now, when they enter the NFL is different than it used to be. They're already this far along in lower body abuse. And then the NFL hits harder, it's stronger, it's faster. And every hit you take is just harder. And it adds up astronomically to a point where that's why a running back now has a shelf life that ends around 26, 27. People had such a tough time wrapping their head around the decline of Todd Gurley. Do you know how much pushback? Do you know that the pushback I got on Todd Gurley will fall off the face of the earth? Do you know, Ron, that the pushback I got on that was 10 times stronger than the pushback I'm getting on Derrick Henry? 10 times stronger. People had such a tough time accepting the inevitable decline of Todd Gurley. It was absolutely on the horizon. You could even see it. Like with Derrick Henry, the one thing I'll say is that there's no visual evidence that he has dropped off to the degree that Todd Gurley had in my mind. I could see Todd Gurley's drop off, and it was evident, but he was going 1, 2, 3 overall coming out of that Super Bowl where he wasn't used and he was banged up. And people had the toughest time accepting that he wasn't a player that you should draft even in round 2. And he was going 1, 2, 3. It took all offseason long. We beat a dead horse on the topic. We definitely drove his ADP down at least a handful of spots with all the content that was produced on it. And I know everybody wants to say things like this, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Derrick Henry's a monster. He is a monster. He is built different. He is an outlier to some degree. But if you're going to bank on him to get 27 to 30 carries a game coming off an injury, we don't even know for sure. Maybe he's had the plate taken out of his foot, and I'll feel a little bit better about him. Not to the point where it changes much of my thinking, but if that plate's still in there, I have even bigger concerns. But right now, we don't know if that plate was taken out. If anybody has that information, drop it and drop a source of where we could find it. But Derrick Henry, the odds of injury are extremely high at his age for running backs, his workload for running backs, his workload all through high school, his workload in college. He had, I think, the 5th highest carry total season in college football history, and the most carries I can even find for a 2.5 window of time. This man has 900 plus carries in a 2.5 window of time. The last 2.5 years, he got injured, so he only played half a year last year. The last 2.5 years, he's had over 900 carries. Absolutely crazy. It's crazy. It's madness. I'm not going near it. I don't blame anybody for wanting to go along for one more ride. I understand it. And I'm not mad at anybody. No one's taking a lap. I could be wrong. It's me playing the odds game. That means I have no crystal ball or any exact science to prove that Derrick Henry can't produce at a 27 to 29 carry a game pace and stay healthy for even remotely close to a full season. I have nothing I can give you other than the historical data that suggests that it is very, very unlikely, if not near impossible. And if he is the outlier, which can be the case, he can be the outlier. I'm not saying he can't be the outlier. He certainly could be the outlier. If Derrick Henry's the outlier, then it is for one more year. And you've got to make that call if you're willing to put your fantasy season on the line because of the cost of entry, the ADP so high. You've got to make that call if you want to put your season on the line in hopes that Derrick Henry does have that once in a lifetime type of year, which is certainly possible. Let's see here. 97 of you in here currently. Hit the like button on your way in the door, or if you've been sitting in here, subscribe.
Hit that subscribe button if you're new, and wipe your feet at the door.
Subscribe if you're new. Ron Navy dropping another super chat. Damn you, Smitty. You're making side with Swaggy. Oh, you're siding with Swaggy. Well, that's a first. Swaggy says, one of the most difficult things to do is try and guess and predict injuries. You will be wrong way more than you're right. Swaggy, I hear this every year. This is not new information. I appreciate your super chat. I appreciate you. But I hear this every year. I heard it last year with Barkley when I said avoid Barkley. Where is Barkley? Like Swaggy. Last year, I don't think I could have been more accurate for predicting injury. So like I'm a little dumbfounded how you're giving me no credit whatsoever when my three biggest avoids were absolutely home run avoids, bro. Home run avoids. And you're literally coming at me about this Derrick Henry stuff as if I don't have a point. Like, Swaggy, I'll admit you have a point. You've heard me say, draft him if you want. You're not taking any laps. I totally agree that there's a percentage chance that Derrick Henry could do what you're suggesting. But you literally, it feels like, are not even accepting the angle that I'm coming from. That there's no validity to it. That the workload of 900 carries in a 1.5 or 2.5 window of time isn't the most concerning stat you've ever heard for a running back. Coming off a 400 carry season and a 2,000 yard season, which broke him, whether you think it was accidental or not. All I'm saying is you have the evidence right in front of you that what I'm saying has legs. I'm not saying that he can't defy the odds. He most certainly can. And here's the other thing that I hear over and over. So Swaggy, once I nail the Derrick Henry or the avoid Saquon Barkley prediction, then I hear this the rest of the next offseason. Saquon injury wasn't hard to predict because his injury was going to take a full year for him. Then I hear that. Swaggy, it's never ending. It's this side, then I get hit from this side, then this side. Okay, avoid Barkley. You're an idiot. Swaggy, the same pushback you're giving me from Henry, I got for avoiding Barkley. Now Barkley was an easy call, Swaggy? Now he was an easy call to avoid all year? Okay. God. It never ends. It never ends. And you know what? I do like the positive shows a lot more because I know this triggers a lot of people to come and defend the players they own in Dynasty. It's natural. There are a lot of Henry owners right now that don't want to hear what I'm saying. And maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But that doesn't mean that if you play the odds game and you look at historical data and you say to yourself, no running back recovers from a breaking after a 400 carry season, that the odds are in my favor. And I commend you for taking the chance and rolling the dice with Henry. And I appreciate it. And in one league, I've already said I'll probably do it. But the odds are so low that he's going to be able to survive a 27 plus carry a game season. Just extremely low. Cue up Rocky theme music. Okay. Let's go. These are the best shows. Smitty, I enjoy them going. A lot of people do enjoy the screaming and yelling. So I understand. Definitely makes you feel like there are a handful of people that are upset at you in the chat, but the majority of the viewers are enjoying the show. Let's get back on point with Lamar. What do I think about Lamar for 2022? Ready for another bunch of people to come get all upset at me and say Lamar's the best ever? Lamar Jackson, let's look at the facts. I imagine Swaggy's gonna hate this one too. This feels like the same type of underdog stance that I think Swaggy's going to take, which I appreciate. And Swaggy, if I'm ever in a position where I need someone to believe in me when I'm about to fall flat on my face, I know Swaggy's going to be there for me because Swaggy is an underdog supporter. So he's, and speaking of underdog fantasy, get on over to the link in the description or thefantasyfootballshow.com and click on the underdog banner, or use just promo code Smitty at underdog and play underdog fantasy and dominate this season using all the stuff you're learning here in the community from the followers. Not just me, our community's absolute fire, straight fire. Not upset, love a good debate. Yeah, Ron, I know that. Ron's got thick skin. Ron's not gonna let that affect him. Ron's loved Henry the whole time I've trashed on him, and Ron doesn't affect Ron. That's the only thing Ron and I really truly disagree with. What's up, Thor Bear? Where was I at? Lamar Jackson busted in 2020. The first half of the season, Lamar Jackson completely busted. And it wasn't all his fault. It was because they switched the offense up on him and held him back. The Ravens decided, we don't want Lamar Jackson running as much anymore. We're going to tweak the offense and the way he plays and ask Lamar Jackson not to run the football. So in 2020, the first half of the season, Lamar was held back. Lamar was benchable in fantasy football in 2020. He did not. He did not bust. He did bust. We're in a fantasy football world right here, bro. So we're talking fantasy football. He absolutely busted. He was practically unstartable for the first 8 weeks of the season. And I have people messaging me on my thefantasyfootballshow.com one-on-one text line, thefantasyfootballshow.com, order it, about when do I put him on the bench, Smitty? Lamar's killing me. Lamar completely had a horrible first part of the season. And then Lamar turned it on in the second half of the year in 2020. So he did have a Lamar-like finish. Then Lamar gets hurt last year. The dude runs a ton. There's literally 2 years in a row of Lamar disappointing you from a fantasy football perspective. And you can say an injured player can't disappoint. Of course an injured player can get disappointed. Ask all the Christian McCaffrey owners if they're disappointed in Christian McCaffrey. Ask all the Mike Thomas owners if they're disappointed in Mike Thomas. Ask all the whatever, name any injured player at all. It's disappointing. You still get disappointed. And even Swaggy. Okay, good. I'm glad Swaggy's actually not. He's actually looking at this from I think the correct perspective. Lamar was a huge letdown last year. He got injured. Complete letdown. Macho Taco says that Burrow saved him. If you had Lamar last year, he didn't help you win your league. If anything, he helped kind of either set you off course or you lost because you didn't react properly enough. Lamar was a liability last year in fantasy. He was a liability for half of a season the year prior. So when people get mad at me when I say Lamar Jackson's a iffy pick, there's nothing but facts to back what I'm saying up 2 years in a row. Same thing when I say that Barkley's a big risk at 2.10. At 3.5, I can get behind it. I'm not mad at anybody for drafting Lamar or for drafting Saquon Barkley in the third round. But when you take Saquon Barkley at 2.4 or 2.5, coming off of the 2 years he's coming off, you're taking straight up risk with a little bit of upside. Whereas you wait one whole 12 picks, a whole round, and then all of a sudden you balance the scales. I'm getting to it, Aaron. I'm getting to it. Come on, Smitty. You tricked me coming in here. Thought you had some useful news. I do have some useful news. If you sit back and kick back, put your feet up on the table and watch the show, I'm trying to tell you what I think's going on in Baltimore. What I think's really going on in Baltimore. I think Lamar Jackson isn't entirely happy there. The same way that McLaurin wasn't entirely happy in Washington, but he still signed his deal, meaning he could still sign. Like, I'm not saying Lamar's wanting out completely. I'm saying Lamar is hesitating from locking up a big fat contract because he doesn't know where he wants to be 2 or 3 years from now. And signing a massive deal with the Ravens right now locks him down. I think that's part of why he's hesitating. And the team didn't help matters by trading away his top wide receiver option that took him some time to build rapport with. Now he doesn't have the weaponry he had previously. Now Bateman, instead of being kind of a sneaky wide receiver 2 for the team that could have had a whole lot of, I think, more upside, now gets shoved into the role where now the top defender on the opposing side is going to absolutely focus on shutting him down. You've got all the pressure on Andrews now, whereas before you had Hollywood Brown keeping defenses honest, and it was really hard to worry about where everybody was on the field. Had they kept Hollywood Brown, had they kept Hollywood, had they had Andrews and Bateman all on the field together, I think Lamar Jackson would have been in a pretty comfortable spot from a passing perspective. And then what does that do? That trickles into the run. That opens the door for Lamar to have nothing but space, because defenses have to, yes, focus on where Lamar is going, but they can't do it all. So it's like you've got Andrews, you've got Hollywood, who's super hard to contain one-on-one. You've got Hollywood racing around the field wide open. You've got Andrews as a safety net and absolute wide receiver monster. And you got this nice rising up and coming wide receiver in Bateman that no one can really even focus on. Bateman's just going to be free to do whatever he wants. There's no room to worry about where Bateman's going. Even if Bateman had 2 straight 100-yard games, opposing defenses the next game would say, we can't worry about Bateman. How are we going to worry about Bateman? We got Andrews and Hollywood Brown and then Lamar and then a run game which is injured, but they're going to run a lot. How are we going to worry about Bateman? They wouldn't have been able to even consider. I don't care if he had 3 straight 100-yard games. They're still saying, Bateman who? We can't cover him. He's got it. Let him go. Let Bateman beat us then. Bateman would have a much better year if he was the number 2 wide receiver and 3rd option. He would have had a better year, in my opinion, because he would have been an afterthought for defenses. Now Bateman is shoved into the wide receiver 1 role. Hollywood's gone. Lamar takes a lot of time to develop rapport. It took a while for Hollywood Brown and Lamar to develop a rapport. And Hollywood Brown didn't even want to stay in Baltimore. He wanted out. So you got to ask yourself, if Hollywood Brown wanted out and Lamar's refusing to sign a deal that would have probably, off the back of the Watson deal, if he acted right away, if he had an agent, if he was smart enough to have an agent, he would have had a deal done off the back of the Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed deal. Off the back of it. Jump, springboard, boom. Give me give me 220. That's whatever. Just give me two plus guaranteed, 200 plus guaranteed. Just give it to me quick before everybody realizes this really isn't the market. Now everyone's laughing at the Browns. Everyone's laughing at the contract. And now I don't think Lamar's sniffing anything close to that deal when he may have been able to touch the sun had he tried for it right after that deal was made. I don't know that Lamar wants to stay, is my point. I don't know. So, clickbait? I don't think so. Austin. What I'm here to tell you is I think there are problems in Baltimore. So this is not clickbait. This is me giving you my assessment. I don't think the problems are so crazy that the team can't do well, but I think that this smells very similar to the Cleveland Browns situation. I said the Cleveland Browns would bust last season. I said that the Bengals will win the division. Everybody in here that was riding with me last year that isn't new, you heard me beat a dead horse on Jamar Chase had to be the pick. The Bengals were going to win the division. The Bengals were going to shock the world. The Browns were going to bust. And everybody said the Browns had the best draft. Smitty, what are you talking about? The Browns are pretty good. The Browns are going to do well. They're going to run the ball well. The Browns dropped the ball. The ball. So I know, and I also said the Bengals would win the division, and people said, how are they going to beat the Ravens? The Ravens dropped the ball. The Ravens disappointed. Lamar got hurt. Lamar was disappointing. Lamar loses his number 1 option, and now it's like everybody thinks everything's going to be just fine, and I don't know that it will be. I'm not saying that Lamar's going to flat out bust in 2022, but give me Trey Lance over Lamar Jackson rounds later. Give me Russell Wilson a round or 2 later. Give me Give me Joe Burrow probably at the same place you're drafting Lamar, sometimes behind Lamar. Joe Burrow crushes Lamar in 2022. And you can come back at me later, Swaggy, and say, well, you can't predict injury. Yeah, I can say that Lamar Jackson has a real high likelihood of getting hurt running the ball 150 to 180 times in a season. A very high likelihood. Take away his number one wide receiver, guess what? He's scrambling on broken plays even more. Guess what? There's more penalties because they don't know exactly what they're doing like they did with Hollywood Brown there. The offense will be a little less efficient. They're talking about wanting to run the ball more than ever. Changing it up. Changing it up for Lamar hasn't always worked out well. We've got evidence that when they try and change things drastically in Baltimore from an offensive scheme perspective or game plan perspective, Lamar ends up having a lesser year. And if Lamar Jackson has 2 years in a row where he's disappointed, you tell me. You tell me how this feels like a lock and not a risk when you end up having to take him in round 5 or 6. Give me Joe Burrow every single time over Lamar Jackson. And I venture to say that most times Lamar will get drafted ahead of Joe Burrow or exactly in the same place. Aaron says he's getting Joe Burrow sometimes in the 8th and 9th round. If you're getting Joe Burrow in the 8th and 9th round, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, you're playing with my grandma. You're playing with Ron's grandma. You're playing with Meet the Woo's grandma. Swaggy's grandma might even be in that draft. You're playing with grandmas, Aaron. Congratulations. Way to beat up on a bunch of old grannies in a league, Aaron. 8th and 9th round is sick. That is disgusting. I don't think I've ever seen that, so I don't know. But I will say that you better give my grandma her money back, Aaron. Honestly, I don't rank Lamar in the top 10, says Jeff. Aaron says high stakes. Wow. I don't know, bro. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why all of our grandmas are playing in high stakes leagues now. I don't know what happened. How'd they all get in the same league? How'd they get I don't know what's going on. All I know is Burrow goes in 6-7 on the regular from what I could see. And 7's like a little unusual. He's usually going in round 6. First of all, congratulations that you're finding him there, Aaron. And I appreciate that. And I'm glad you are. And congratulations. But I will say that I can't give advice for people to expect that, because you know what I'd hear all day long, Aaron? You can't get him around 7 or 8 speed. That's stupid. You know, like I don't want to hear that, so I'm not going to even bring it up when I talk about it. It's like, what's the average? It's around 6, and that's all I can do with it. I know this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt, guys. This is gonna hurt. They get a senior discount, says Ron Navy. This is going to hurt to hear, but Lamar Jackson, put your earmuffs on, put your goggles on that you can't see out of. Put grandma's glasses on that are this thick, because what I'm about to do is going to hurt a lot of you. But Lamar Jackson.
You've just been Smitty disapproved.
At his ADP, given the other options, given that Burrow's there every single time, given Trey Lance is available a round or 2 or 3 sometimes later, Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, even Russell Wilson, ahead of Lamar Jackson.
You've just been Smitty approved.
With the understanding and caveat that you use ADP. So obviously take Trey Lance much later than you get Lamar. If somebody comes in here and says, I drafted Trey Lance right where Lamar's going, you better be right, Smitty. I'm gonna lose it. Hey Smitty, I took your advice and I took Trey Lance in round 4 or 5. Are you proud of me? No, I'm not proud of you. I'm not proud of you at all. You have to use ADP to your advantage. Where is Lance going? 7, 8? Where's Lamar going? 5 or 6? Put it together. Put it together. Put the pieces together. It's steal season. Taking Lance at 7 and 8 allows and frees you up to use your 5th rounder on a guy like, what if Waddle falls to the 5th round? What if, I've seen Breece Hall even fall to the 5th round. It's not super common, but the 5th round is actually extremely valuable. Extremely valuable. ETN used to fall to round 5. Now he's going in 4, sometimes in 3. But the point is, and that's why you do best ball, you do these DFS drafts early, because you can take full advantage of when remember when ETN was going in round 5 on Underdog Fantasy on the regular? It was months long. Use promo code Smitty. Link is in the description. It was months long. We stole. Ron, were you drafting then? On Underdog before that ADP change happened? You could literally get ETN in round 5. You could get Breece Hall in round 5. It was absolutely steal season. You could get Herbert in round 5 on the regular, and sometimes you still can. You could get Burrow in 7. It was doing Underdog drafts early. It's the best thing you can do. Promo code Smitty. Link in the description. Absolute craziness that you take full advantage of. Justin Herbert season. Justin Herbert.
To the moon.
Trey Lance.
To the moon.
Breece Hall.
To the moon.
ETN.
To the moon.
Lamar Jackson.
You've just been Smitty disapproved.
Not that Lamar can't have a good season or prove me wrong. I need you guys to listen to me very clearly here. It's not that Lamar can't do it. Like, what I don't need or even care about is if somebody comes to me after and says, Lamar's top 5, top 6, top 5. You feel pretty stupid now, don't you, Smitty? You feel like a total moron now, don't you, Smitty? Hey, Smitty, Derrick Henry lasted 14 games, did really, really well. 14 and a half games. You feel pretty stupid, don't you? Actually, not at all. I actually don't even feel bad or feel like I did anything wrong, because it's odds games. Can you roll on the roulette wheel? Can you get a 4? Can you put all your money, your life savings down on number 4? Yeah, you can. If you put your life savings down on number 4 and rolled that ball, broski, and landed on 4, I'm still going to call you a moron that was absolutely lucky, and you just did an amazing thing that can't ever really happen to anybody else that you'll ever meet. It still can work. I'm not saying the odds are that against Henry or that against Lamar, but it is an odds game, and I think you absolutely need to be careful with your draft capital, to the point where if Lamar's going higher than Joe Burrow, and I have Joe Burrow as my number 1, 2, or 3 overall quarterback, Joe Burrow could actually outscore every single fantasy football player in fantasy football. He could be the number 1 overall scorer, and he falls into the 6th round. That's why I did a video that's the most recent video before this one. Go watch it, on why Joe Burrow ranks inside my top 4 overall league-winning players for 2022, and he actually ranks number 1 in the sense that you can get him, the last player in fantasy football that I think can be the number 1 overall scorer in all of fantasy football in round 6. It is a league.
You've just been Smitty approved.
League winner. Meet the Woo just watched it. Let's open up the phone lines. If any of you have gripes and complaints, and you want to come in and just tell me how I'm so wrong about injuries or this or that, keep it short. No long calls. Literally, it's like you're going to ask a question and then we're moving on, okay? No long stuff. We're not dragging this out. Dial into the show. Let's roll.
Call into the show.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Call into the show. Dial 602 NFL. Dong.
Dial in. Let's discuss. Yell at me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me how Henry's built different. Call in and let's talk positive. We don't have to talk negative. This doesn't have to be a screaming match. But dial in and tell me what is on your mind. But keep it brief. We will hang up on you. if you take too long. And that's no offense. We just need to keep the show rolling. Hurts over Lamar over Kryler. I'm going to say I haven't even talked about Hurts. I would take Hurts over Lamar Jackson. I would actually draft Hurts over Lamar Jackson. Hurts is probably headed
To the moon.
to the moon. I would take Hurts over Lamar. You can think I'm crazy all you want. Enjoy. Get your popcorn ready. Let's roll. Have a good time. Have a good time. That means no Ron calls. Ron, you can call. Just make it short. You're good. Dial in. We're just keeping it brief. So Hurts should be drafted in the 4th? No. I think you're baiting me here. Smitty, you like Hurts, so I'm gonna take him in the 4th and blame it on you. Take a lap. Where's my button?
Take a lap. Take a lap. Take a lap. Take a lap.
Hurts my number 3 this year, round 6. And you can get him later than 6. You can get him in 7 sometimes. But yeah, I think Hurts and Lance are my number 5 over Lamar. Like, surprising finish. You draft them where the ADP allows. If you draft Trey Lance as the 5th drafted quarterback, you're not paying attention. If you draft Hurts as the 5th drafted quarterback, you're not paying attention. I'm not targeting anybody in here. I'm just saying you in general. If you're watching and you go, did he just say 5th? He just said Trey Lance and Hurts are number 5. What a moron. He would draft. Hey, Margaret. Hey, Ma. Yes? Smitty just said he'd draft Hurts number 5. What an idiot. No, but he's a... We got a call. You're live on the Fantasy Football Show. What can I do for you? Yellow! Try calling back. I don't know what happened there. Dial in again.
Call into the show. Dial 602 NFL. Dong.
Where's the meatloaf? Okay, dial back in. I don't know. I might have hung up on you in accident. It gives me literally my setup here. It's hard to change some things, and it gives me like 2.5 rings. And then if I hit it wrong, it'll hang up, or you guys hang up, or whatever. I don't know. AJ Brown turned Tannehill into a great QB. I wouldn't say great QB. Well, at times he did. I guess have great numbers, didn't he? Yeah. Tannehill's going to look like at the club when the lights come on. We're going to see what Tannehill really looks like without A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown leaving is like the lights coming on at the club. And this offense is going to look pretty different, and that's one of the concerns I have for Henry. That had to be swaggy. I don't know. They didn't call back. Whoever called didn't call back, so. Grab him in the 7th. Hurts, yeah, 7th if you can get Hurts in the 7th round, man. He's a home run there. I think 6 might be a tad early. Like, we do mock drafts, and I feel like 6 is okay, though. Like, come to think of it, like, end of 6, I could be okay with that. Like, 6.9, 6.10. Like, when you're almost at the turn anyway, like, why not? Why not? That ain't bad. But try the latest in the 6th round as possible, and 7 would be a home run. Lamar calling to confirm he's taking his legs and talents elsewhere. Yeah, Lamar's probably pretty pissed off right now to a lot of people because he's getting a lot of hate. But you change your Twitter header to this, then it's kind of your fault. Okay, if Twitter and social media are gonna blow up and say that you have issues with your contract, it's kind of your fault to post this on your header and expect any different. If Burrow isn't available, Hurts is an automatic pick, says Prime. I like that. I like Trey Lance too. Hurts and Trey Lance are equally, in my opinion, the 5. The guys that are going to shock the world and grab a hold of the quarterback 5 spot after the Big 4. The Big 4, you can have them in any order. There's no laps being taken, if you've got a different order than me. Herbert, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow with the best value out of all of them being Joe Burrow because he goes rounds later, and then Mahomes top 4, and then it's tier break, and then it's Trey Lance and Hurts trying to get up in that tier the entire season. You're live on the Fantasy Football Show. Who am I talking to?
Smitty.
Yeah.
It's Swaggy.
Swaggy. I don't think, is this really Swaggy?
Huh? No, it's Swaggy, man. It's me, man.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I have no issue. I said Hurts is starting to kind of grow on me, but it's not because I think he's any good as a quarterback. I just like his schedule. I like he has stable matchups this year.
Okay.
But as far as injuries, that's what I'm saying. Like, I like to drive players with upside. Like, I don't worry about injuries. How you predict injuries, that's difficult to do.
It might be difficult to do, Swaggy, but I mean, I have a pretty good accuracy with it. So, like I said, when I identify an injury risk, what do you think I'm doing? Just throwing mud at a wall? Like I'm looking at ACLs. I'm looking at where Barkley is in his recovery. And so I know you're saying you agree with me on Barkley that he looked injury prone, but do you know how much crap? Do you know how? Hold on, Swaggy. You know how much crap I took all off season long for saying don't go near Barkley in 2021. Let me tell you why. And I listed it off over and over and beat a dead horse. ACLs take a full year to recover. We can't use Adrian Peterson. He wasn't ready. The writing was on the wall. He barely ran without pads right before week 1. And people continued to draft him, Swaggy. And they said things like, we're not drafting Barkley for week 1. They said it over and over, bro. They said it over and over and over. And all I'm saying is every case is different. And I don't just go at a player that got hurt. I go after a player that has a lot of red flags. When there are multiple red flags, it tells a story and it gives you a higher probability of busting. And in the case of Henry, I don't want to stick on Henry too much because we talked about Henry a ton. But in the case of Henry, Swaggy, I can give you a plethora, a laundry list of concerns and red flags that, in my opinion, make me much more likely to predict this right than someone saying that he's going to just play healthy and all year because he's Henry and he has to. And those things, again, very briefly, are when you rush over 371 times, and he ran over 400 times if you include the playoffs, in 2020, your odds of not only getting injured, but never, ever, ever returning to form are astronomical, and there are only a handful of running backs in the history of the NFL that have ever run for over 400 carries and returned to form, and he broke. He broke exactly like history predicted. Running backs that run for 2,000 yards, their yardage and totals are cut in half the next year, or they get injured, or they just fall flat on their face. And Barry Sanders is one of the only runners to ever really duplicate his numbers after his 2,000-yard season. And using running backs in the past doesn't even work anymore because of the workload and how things are different in the NFL today. There's the amount of carries in a small window, 900 plus carries in a 2.5-year span. That's astronomically high. Plate in his foot, which he may have had taken out and we don't know about it. That would help me a little bit in saying that he'd last longer. But if he's got a plate in his foot and he's carrying the ball 27 to 30 times a game, it's not going to end well.
I agree with you about the carries and all that, but you got to understand, he doesn't have any cachet over the years. I give Henry at least one more year to do it one more time before I say he don't fell off. You got to give him a chance. And CMC, I'm still drafting him in most leagues. I'll take him number 2 overall. The only player that I wouldn't take him over is Jonathan Taylor. But if CMC's a different story than all these other dudes, he had all those carries a couple years ago. His injuries are less severe. CMC can make it back to top. Listen, no one has upside like Christian McCaffrey, period. I draft in fantasy. I'm an upside drafting person. Floor for me, Keenan Allen doesn't do it for me. I like Mike Evans. I don't care about all that. I'm trying to win the league. I want win the league players. So I always draft more on the upside that they can win the league for me. If you always think about safety, then how can you win and fantasy football?
Swaggy,
don't worry about those regular players.
Swaggy, do I always think about safety? This is a man that's saying Breece Hall is going to be a top 5 running back.
No, you're different. You're different.
Yeah.
You're different. I'm just saying, in general. People are like they're scared of Mahomes because he doesn't have Hill anymore. I don't care about that. Give me all the Mahomes I can handle this year. He doesn't need Tyreek Hill. He's the best quarterback in football. Doesn't matter about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
on
board there. I'm on board. I think
But
you
as
knock
far as
him
Lamar
down
Jackson,
a notch.
I'm not touching Lamar Jackson. As far as Lamar Jackson, we're on the same page. I want no parts of Lamar Jackson.
So what? Tell me
took away
why.
best
Tell me
receiver.
why, because I feel like that paints a picture as to the way I look at things. So I want to know why you can do that with Lamar and not other players. I'm curious though. What about Lamar?
Because Lamar lost his best. He lost his best wide receiver. That's one, and two, he's never been that good of a passer, and
Agree
they
and
have
agree.
no real weapons. Huh?
Agree on both points.
Yeah, Lamar is different though. Kyler Murray's a better passer than Lamar Jackson, and Kyler's not that great either, because he has to run out the pocket to make the throws. That's why he struggled against the Rams.
Agreed.
They made him a pocket passer, and he couldn't do it.
Agreed.
But Mahomes, like I'm saying, like people are scared because, the unknown. I don't play fantasy. I don't even live my life like that. Yeah, you got to take these chances.
Agreed.
Saquon Barkley's different this year, Smitty. I'm telling you.
Okay,
He'll
but
finish top 5, and you're going to see it.
okay, so here's the thing with Barkley, and you'll hear me not say Barkley's gonna bust. I don't say Barkley's gonna bust. Barkley was gonna bust last year, and I said avoid him and let him prove it to you before you ever give him back the respect that even a high second rounder deserves. Like here's the thing.
I wouldn't pick him in the second. I'd take him in the third.
Then you and I again are on the same page then, Swaggy, because everyone in here that likes Barkley is going to argue he is worth a second rounder, and I'm saying that I can get behind Barkley bouncing back, but you have to take him into a place that packages in the risk and puts him in a position where he's still got to earn his ranking, Swaggy. You can't just hand him 2.5. You and I agree. You and I agree there.
I agree with that one.
But I don't.
I'm just saying, I understand what you're predicting injuries. I see it, but I can't think like that. I like to take chances.
But I do too.
I always take chances on players with high upside.
But
Christian McCaffrey has the highest upside of any player in the NFL.
But Swaggy,
so why not take a chance there too?
Ask yourself a question though, because you're kind of painting a picture like I don't like injury. That if a guy's hurt, I just run away from him, or that I predict injury recklessly. Think about it for a second. Who was one of my favorite running backs in 2022 coming off a season-ending injury? ETN. He's coming off a season-ending injury, a Liz Frank injury that sometimes people call career-threatening, and I love him. I take chances too, Swaggy, just because I don't like certain players that are coming off injury or had a long injury history or that feel like their careers are over, doesn't mean I don't take risk with injury. ETN has no other red flags. He looks 100% healthy. He's back on the field proving he can cut without any hesitation, cut without any limitation. ETN is proving to me what Barkley still needs to prove to me. So, and you and I agree on Barkley. So Barkley 3.5, I'm not mad at it at all. But Barkley at
for me 3.3, I take him too.
Okay, 2.5, I'm out, and so are you.
No.
But people are going to say
I'm not doing 2.5.
the same thing you're saying to
I'm not
me.
doing anywhere in the second round with Barkley.
Agreed.
I take Aaron Jones over him.
But I take risks, Swaggy. I take risks all the time. ETN is a huge risk if you look at it from the injury perspective.
Though, man. You hate injury-plagued players. You don't like him.
Why do I love ETN?
Like Henry, I've never been injury-prone, so the one injury he has, I understand it. I have no stocks in Henry at all. I never have, never will. But I'm just saying, I'm stating the fact that Henry's the 1 year he got injured. Yes, you're saying because of the mileage, but I think he still has one. So name
some players. Swaggy, I'm gonna show you where the correlation is. Name some players that I'm down on because of injury.
TMC.
Okay.
Henry and Cook and Akers. All four.
Okay, the only one.
But you're back on the Mixon train because Mixon proved it to you last year, but you've always been down on Mixon too. Don't forget that.
The only one of the four that you're talking about, though, are at the end of the twilight of their career is potentially gone, and the injury is shoving them over the edge.
27, 28. Yeah,
27, 26, 27 is the new 30, Swaggy. Did players run over 30? They did. Sometimes they could go over the 30 mark. Usually 30 was the death of a running back. Sometimes they could run at 31. Sometimes, depending on when they turned 31. Same thing with 27.
Before that age.
Same thing with 27. 27 is now that 31, and 26 is now the 30. And Akers, I'm completely off Akers. Akers has proven absolutely nothing. The only thing Akers has proven is that he's reckless and irresponsible with his body, that the Rams don't care about his health, and the guy is not potentially going to be even 100% healthy until next year or the year after. Akers, you know what's so funny? A lot of people are going to say this is Akers' second year removed. I've seen people say it in the comments. This is Akers' second year coming off an Achilles tear. It is not. This will be his first year back from an Achilles tear. He's not a calendar year away. He rushed onto the field, tried to get on after 5 months, came on after 6 months, was the worst running back in the league efficiency-wise, and literally is going to enter his first year now of the Achilles injury, which no running back has ever recovered from to the tune, a running back of a top 10.
I'm a Florida State fan, though. He's been efficient since college days, and I used to defend him because I said it's the O-line. Then he came to the NFL and it's the same thing. He's one of the most inefficient running backs the NFL's ever seen in his first couple of years in the league.
Who?
That doesn't mean he can't change it, though.
Who?
Cam Akers.
Oh, yeah.
Cam Akers.
But Cam Akers is not going to have explosion for at least a whole year. He's going to have partial explosion. He had, not only that, Swaggy, he had a experimental procedure done. Like people just think, oh, he had the new stuff. He had the new stuff. It was almost like he was the guinea pig of this type of approach, where they patchwork that Achilles. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna do probably the only reason I may not do it is because I think people just would rather prefer more rich content. But I almost want to do the 10,000 no acres, 10,000 times in a row for no acres awareness. This guy should not be drafted. I've seen him go in the second and third round right now. Absolutely asinine. Those people think he's 2 years removed from recovery. So, okay.
But I'm not going to lie to you, Smitty. I'm going to sit here and lie to you. I'll take Akers at the end of the fourth, top of the fifth. Why not?
Well,
he's my third running back. Who cares?
But he's going in the third, so that's like saying, I'll take Henry if he falls to the third round. Henry's not falling to the third round. Like Akers in the fifth ain't going to really happen. Let other people.
Akers in the fourth to happen, though. I'll take that risk in the fourth.
The only reason I'm taking Akers is if I feel like the value is so good of trading him that I'll take the chance, and then I'll trade him for a receiver that was drafted late.
But there's a lot of people that feel like you, though, Smitty, that they don't really want Akers.
That's why I will only take I would only take the chance if it was like a really good bet that I was going to turn him into like a Waddle or a DK or somebody else that was doubted.
No one's doing them players for him, though. Not right now. They'll have to see it on the field first.
Well, that's why I don't take him. Like these hypotheticals. My point is, Swaggy, you're coining me as a guy that hates injury, and that's not the case. I have a lot of. I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying that people watching don't, but I have a lot of experience. 20 straight years of watching. Let me put this in perspective. 20 years, not just of acquiring and tweaking and honing on a skill of this thing we call fantasy football, but 20 years of observation. Okay. From a professional angle, okay, like looking at it differently than a fantasy football player, because you got to think about it. When you draft a player and you don't own a player, you're not looking at everything the way I am. When I watch fantasy football on Sundays and when I analyze it, I'm doing it from a very top level view of everybody. Whereas a lot of people, they're focused on their own players, on their team, and they don't have the time to absorb everything the way that I do full time.
Maybe I wasn't saying that you're avoiding injuries or whatever. I'm letting you. I understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying I'm a guy that would take chances on certain players that are proven that they have the cachet.
So am I.
If Henry is his first big time injury and he missed 10 games, he was leading the NFL in rushing before he got injured. He has
Swaggy,
one solid more year, I think, left in him.
Okay, Swaggy, his dynasty ADP, where do you think it is?
He's old now. They're not going to take him. It's old. He's washed now.
So
he doesn't have much.
But where is it? Like third round, right? Third round, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still around. It's still
Whenever you get to a point where the dynasty ADP and the redraft ADP have a major discrepancy, like you're talking about top 5 overall. Some people say Henry's the 1 overall. Top 5 overall in redraft, barely a third rounder in dynasty. That is a strong indication that Swaggy, it's almost like a Vegas line. We are on the line. Okay.
I agree.
Are you on this side or am I on this side? So in a sense, it's almost ridiculous for either one of us to call the other one's stance ridiculous, because literally we are on the line and the masses are telling us that this is either he has 1 year left or he's done. And that line is drawn. I don't think you're crazy for wanting to go along for the ride one more year.
Smitty, here's the difference between you and I, though. I'll take that chance in redraft.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. The line is right here. Because Dynasty is saying he's no good to even pick in the top 3 rounds, and redraft saying he could be number 1, that means that the fantasy football population is torn down the middle in terms of whether there's 1 more year left or not. And I'm just saying that I would rather jump ship for a safer player that I easily like as much, that has less risk to an extreme degree, in a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson. If you don't want to go wide receiver, you go Najee, you go Eckler. I'd even take Javonte and DeAndre Swift over Derrick Henry in 2022 because they have more upside and less risk, in my opinion. And to all the points of, you don't like this or you don't like that, or you missed on Mixon, Smitty, there's a lot of players that you're going to say the risk is high, the injury risk is high, and if they work out, it doesn't necessarily mean it was the horrible call at the time. It's all those odds games. It's like I said, you go to the roulette wheel and you bet all your life savings on hitting the number 4. You could hit it, and then what? You're going to say, I told you, moron, I hit it. But the odds, you got to play the odds games at every turn. And if you play the odds game at every draft selection you make, so first round, what's the best pick at this draft slot? The second round, what is the best pick at this draft slot? You will have a better team than you would have if you just don't even consider that. If you just say, well, it's Derrick Henry.
If I had the 4th pick, say for just for mocks, and the 3 are gone, which is Jonathan Taylor, Eckler, and CMC, idealistically, I would draft Kupp right there, though. I would take Kupp at 4. I have no issue with Kupp at 4 in redraft over like a Henry or even Najee. You're bigger on Najee. The followers, all of us that listen to your show, they're bigger. You guys are big on Najee than I am. I'm not a believer in Najee this year. I really felt like I lucked out drafting him last year.
Offense?
But his offense is doo-doo.
I mean, his offense is probably better this year than it was last year.
Move the ball.
Well, they improved their offensive line slightly. He had a monster rookie year. They're going to feed him the football. I get it. Like there are concerns.
It was bad. He's barely 4 yards. He was under 4 yards a carry.
I know. And like I said,
he had over 370 plus touches.
Like I said before,
and Ben is gone, so I think its reception is going to go way down. And it's the same thing. Like now, I think that Devontae in Green Bay is gone. I think Aaron Jones is a stud, and I love Aaron Jones because he's going to catch about 60 passes this year.
They better feed him that.
Is important. I know, but I don't think Najee's where you guys are putting him. I don't see him there. I can't take him no top.
I can understand that. I mean,
I can't pick Najee there.
It's a valid concern. It's a valid concern. There are concerns in Pittsburgh. I don't disagree that there are concerns. It's the matter of, do you think he'll overcome those? That's why we play the game. That's why we play the game. I'm not against what?
It's the same thing with Deontay. I don't like Deontay Johnson this year. Not in that offense. Not without Ben. I don't know what's going to happen.
That's why I say Claypool will probably be the leading wide receiver. Not that I think Claypool is going to absolutely blow up and have this wide receiver 1 season. People are taking that out of context.
Claypool was that good, though. I don't.
No, Claypool's a monster.
I don't think Claypool can separate.
The 6'4", 240-pound monster.
Separate. Deontay separates almost 2 yards of separation.
Yeah.
Claypool cannot.
They're different wide receivers, too. Claypool is going to go up and pull down.
Outside at 6'4", but he's a jump man.
Look, I don't.
Separates
I'm not talking anything more than a wide receiver 3-4, but I don't think Deontay Johnson's going to come close to earning his 4th round value. People are out of their mind. I think we agree on that.
I'm not
They're out of their mind.
Deontay
is
just. I told you the Steelers are off my grid. Period. I don't want anything to do.
Yeah,
with
I understand it, but
I
understand the Najee Harris concern. It's definitely valid. It's not an invalid concern. That's what I'm saying. Some of these things.
And here's where you're gonna blow your mind. I would take CMC over Najee in a heartbeat.
I don't think that blows my mind. CMC's probably on average.
You're worried about concern about injuries. I don't care about that right now.
I know you don't care about it. I do. I care about what have you done for me lately in the past 2 years, the past 2 seasons. You have not seen McCaffrey deliver, and he was the most used running back, the highest percentage of his offense than any other player in the NFL for years. And this was a concern. Breakdown was inevitable for CMC. And the year that he started to break down, which was 2 years ago, it was about the time we all worried that it could potentially happen that year or the next year. So now, yeah, you could say he's rested, whatever you want, but he literally broke down around where we started to have concerns because, Swaggy, when this is what I've learned over the course of my career, is when you're a fantasy football number 1 running back or 2 or even a top 3 pick, you have volume that is going to wear you down quick because you can't be the number 1 fantasy football running back and have low volume. You are there for a reason. You're being overworked. The reign of a top 5 running back is no longer 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It is a short period of time. You don't have long to sit up top because you're being overfed. McCaffrey has a little bit more, I'd say, ability to have one more elite season. He has one more ability. Hold on, Swaggy. He has one more ability to have an elite season. I think a little bit more so than Henry. I think between the two, because Henry's getting all that work up the gut. It's harder on the body. It's 900 and something carries within 2.5 seasons. That window of time is ridiculous. The Titans should be ashamed of themselves for running this man into the ground the way they did. And they're going to do it again. Without A.J. Brown, the offense is going to be stagnant. They can't move the football down the field. Henry's going to see more 8-man fronts than ever. His yards per carry already dropped, even though his efficiency or his usage went up. His efficiency has dropped as Henry's gotten older. People just don't know it because the numbers are so high because he gets freaking 7,000 carries. I think Christian McCaffrey has a little bit more likely of a shot of having a longer season, but I still feel like the fact that we haven't seen anything for 2 years, the same thing with Mike Thomas, makes me want to avoid the situation entirely at the cost of entry. If it was 12 overall, Swaggy, which isn't going to happen, I'd take him at the 12-13 turn in at least one draft. But he's going in the top 5. Some people say number 1. And why do that? Why do that when he hasn't shown you anything in 2 years to suggest he can do it? That's not hating injury, Swaggy. That's being realistic to where, okay, if a guy gets hurt like ETN, why do I like him? I don't hate injury. I hate when a player perceives to not be able to stay healthy and that they're at the end of their career. Then I jump ship, Swaggy.
Smitty, the difference between you and I is I'll always draft a player with elite upside over the injury.
Okay, I draft running backs with elite upside as well. But yes, if they are injury prone in my mind with my assessment, I will avoid them.
But is CMC really injury prone though?
Yes. Yes.
He had nicks here and there, but no huge injuries though.
He had Nick. Define Nick. Define Nick.
MCL.
Define Nick. It keeps you. If you're out 2 seasons, Swaggy, how are those nicks and bruises? He hasn't played for like 2 years. How is that nick? How is that a small nick or bruise?
The largest injury he had was the chest injury.
He hasn't played for 2 years.
Listen, I like elite. I'll take CMC again. And I'll be on the show every day like normal, and I'll still check in. We're going to see.
I still appreciate you.
Thank you, Smitty. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you, pal. I really, some of you think I'm yelling at him. I love Swaggy. I hope Swaggy still loves me. But I don't know. Sometimes this whole you can't predict injury stuff drives me absolutely nuts. All right, Ron, we're going to have to keep you at a cap. What can we do for you, Ronnie boy?
I know. First of all, I'm throwing Swaggy back overboard again because he's dragging on my Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, this whole Hall. I mean, this whole Henry thing is just like killing me with you. It really is because, I mean, we got ETN, and I love ETN just like you do. ETN hasn't played any time in the NFL, and he's injured prior to having anything. So you're willing to give him a chance, I guess, because of his age. But Henry has one injury. You're not giving him a chance to see what he does after his injury. And think about it. He was behind Murray for 2 years, hardly getting any productivity at all. He's had only 2 years of 300-plus carries.
Yeah,
and then he was injured last year.
But Ron,
so
900 carries.
How can you say you would take Javonte over him when he's splitting carries with Gordon over
I
Henry,
don't think he's going to split carries with Gordon. Number one,
you don't know. So I'm going to keep this short. Let's have a friendly bet. If Henry has an explosive year, if he breaks down, I'm going to buy you a case of your Mexican Coke.
How about we keep it simple?
And
how about we keep it simple? We'll put a membership or whatever. You can choose the level you want. We have on the Fantasy Football Show. I hand that to you free, or you buy it. You're still getting value from it because I don't want to take anything without giving you value. So do that.
That's fine.
Yeah, do that.
Just that.
Yeah. So Henry. Now, defining explosive season is going to be hard because if he has 7 straight games of being a monster and has a freak injury, are you going to say that he was on his way to it? Like, what's your definition?
No. Okay. If he has his normal, like he had
top 5 season,
2 years where he had the 300. If he has, excluding, maybe he misses 1 or 2 games, but most running backs do. So, but if he has, a pretty much complete season, and his productivity is basically the same as it was in his 300 carry years, then
I mean, we're gonna have a tough time to find it, but that's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll hash it out. It might make for a good debate if we end up having it be cloudy at the end of it. But yeah, okay, yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Here's what I'll say, Ron, and then I'll let it go because I know that the Derrick Henry topics can been beat like a dead horse. But the problem is, I understand what you're saying. You what? You what?
Well, I know it's been beat to hell.
Yeah, but Henry's had 900 carries within that 2.5 year window of time. You can say he wasn't used early on in his NFL career all you want. You can say it's his first injury. None of that matters to me. When you're at his age in today's NFL, this is the new 30. His age is the new 30 years old, where you fell off the face of the earth. When you've rushed for 2,000 yards, when you've had a 400 carry season, and then history told you that he was going to break, and then he broke, the odds of coming back to life after the breakage from a 400 carry season, which takes running back out after running back after running back. Very few running backs ever escape that 400 carry season and don't break physically for their career. I just think it's a tall order for a running back that is built different, that hits the ground harder and harder and harder than any other player in the NFL. And he is not a shifty guy behind the line of scrimmage. He's a plotter. Once he gets going to full speed, he's very impossible to take down, but he's not shifty behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to face 8-man front after 8-man front. If he can't break through the hole, he can't go anywhere. So this is going to be one of those scenarios. I don't know if it'll be right away. He could start off the year good, but at some point, Derrick Henry's going to look like he's running in mud. It's going to be very painful to watch for a lot of people, but at his size, his inability to run the football down the field and get going, and I don't know if you owned Henry last year, you know First half, sometimes he'd have 30 and 40 yards, no touchdowns, or you'd be like, what this is going to be a bad game for Henry. The end of the game, he'd have 125 and 2 or 3 scores because he'd wear defenses down. I think we're going to be in a real strange place if this Tennessee Titans team can't move the football down the field. He's seeing 8-man front after 8-man front and can't break through the line of scrimmage, and he's going to potentially get abused even. Like, here's my concern, Ron. If you put him in the same offense with A.J. Brown and they could open it up, I might be a whole lot more on board with Henry having one more year. But you take all the injury risk I already feel is there, and you tell me now he's facing more 8-man fronts and getting smashed at the line of scrimmage more than ever. He's gonna break down. That's my take. I realize that it's a bold take to some people. It's why we play the game. Could I be wrong on it? Absolutely. There's a percentage chance I'm wrong. I call it like 20%, but it's an arbitrary number I'm just throwing out.
All right. I do agree with you on Lamar Jackson. I mean, I just that whole Baltimore team is they put him in a bad position to begin with, and I'm just staying totally away from Baltimore altogether.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, I don't like Lamar this year. Not at his value.
Anyway,
I'm staying clear. All right, Ron. Appreciate you, Ron. Appreciate all the super chats. Appreciate all the support. We're gonna disagree on some stuff, and this Henry one's one of them. No big deal.
Oh yeah.
All right, appreciate you. Later.
Yeah.
And Swaggy, I appreciate you still. We are done for today. Enough yelling and screaming. These things happen. These shows are going to kind of have the I don't want to say negative vibe to them sometimes when you talk about a player breaking down. But thank you all for watching today. This was an hour and a half of talking Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, injuries, all that stuff. It was a pretty good show, to be honest. I felt like it was surprisingly a lot of content got delivered in this one. What was going to be just an update on Lamar's situation. Appreciate everybody that called in. Families argue, says Blackbeard. Families argue. Ron, families argue, says Blackbeard. We're okay. Swaggy, we're okay. We'll be okay. You missed a doozy, Overcome. You might want to rewatch it. Overcome missed the show. I'm live Monday through Friday. I'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, unless we go live on emergency live stream, because your boy Smitty goes live anytime there's breaking news. Get your one-on-one text device at thefantasyfootballshow.com. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Hit that like button on the way out the door. Still 94 of you in here. Punch the thumb up button on the way out the door. Russian Collusion dropping a super chat. Russian Collusion says, Smitty, don't get upset. Let these guys draft the body bags. It leaves better picks for us. Thank you, Russian Collusion, for dropping the super. Ryan Kilpatrick in the house. Swaggy throwing up the peace sign. There's my pal Swaggy. Swaggy and I are fine. Kayla, thank you for being here. Hoovy, see you later, buddy boy. Appreciate you, Blackbeard. Terry, Silver in the house. Terry in the house. Vamp, Philip, Ron Navy. Kayla is a exclusive YouTube member. Philip, Swaggy, Hoovy, all exclusive YouTube members. That link is below as well in the description. Overcome is a exclusive YouTube member. Drop them emojis. And we're going to have exclusive chats here during some of the episodes. Appreciate everybody. Get on over to thefantasyfootballshow.com. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern or earlier if there's breaking news. People are getting burrowed left and right, and people are going to remember it.